Don't change the channel, don't touch that dial. We got it all on UHF. Take off the sneakers.
All right. Hey, guys, it's Kevin again, and we are here once again for another week. Well, the first week, actually, of Big Brother All-Stars 22. Oh, great. I love echoes. Where is that coming from? There we go. That happens to me like every fucking video I do. But regardless, we are here to talk about the first week of Big Brother All-Stars or Big Brother 22, whichever way that you'd like to slice it. And once again, as I said in my last video, the reason why I'm doing it this way is because pretty much the last few months of my life has been solely focused on sequester community and things like that, which y'all should join because it's really fun. It's been the main thing getting me through the pandemic and rough times and things like that. And, I've made a lot of different friends through it with different perspectives, 3 of which are on here right now. So I guess introduce yourself, starting with Ian.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ian. As you just heard, really excited to be on this panel. This is, being a part of a reality TV world,
Yes.
something I've kind of been growing up watching, but always was just not necessarily having a community to talk about it. So this is really, really cool to really dive into, all the interconnectedness, the dynamics, and talking about what potentially, if you can see yourself in a certain person's shoes, what you would end up doing. Because, like Kevin said, a sequester community too, you end up getting that opportunity to kind of, at least see a portion of what you would do in these situations. And it's just really fun to watch. And then, of course, how blessed are we just in general that we get any sort of reality TV right now, let alone, a cast like this and a gameplay like this in the first week.
Yeah. Next up, if you watch Sequester, you know that he's the #1 in terms of draft. He knows everything there is to know about water and things like that. And he also is a pretty big fan of a certain individual. Here is Briones Terry Farello.
Yes.
Hey guys, my name is Brian. I kind of stumbled upon Big Brother during Big Brother 15. I had a roommate that watched it. I was hooked off the rip. I went back. I watched every single season, including 9 and 1, multiple times. I love BB Canada. Big Brother is the only reality show that I really watch, and I'm interested in sharing my thoughts on it.
All right, and finally here we have Marcelo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marcelo. Been a huge Big Brother fan for the longest time. My first season was Big Brother 11. I just stumbled upon it one day, and very interesting. Stumbled upon changing channels and just was wondering what the show was and got hooked immediately. Started watching seasons 2 through 9 and fell in love with Big Brother 6, which is one of my all-time favorite seasons. And then Big Brother 7 All-Stars 1, however you want to call it, became one of my all-time favorite seasons as well. So 6 and 7 is where it's at. And joined the sequester community, and it was really cool because I don't have a lot of friends that watch reality television. A lot of people don't know what Big Brother is or don't realize that it's still on the air, and getting to talk to a lot of people about how much we love Big Brother is honestly so cool and so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun for sure. But now that all that's out of the way, we're just going to get into this first week, which honestly is really interesting because I feel like, and y'all can probably attest to this, the first week of Big Brother is so chaotic because it's so long. There's so much going on. There's all, people are just doing all kinds of crazy shit. Not really the case in this week. This was a very low-key first week. There's stuff to discuss for sure, but in terms of first weeks, there isn't a lot going on. The level of gameplay we're getting, I feel like, is very basic, especially for an All-Star season. So I guess just getting right into it, we already talked about in the first episode how Cody is HOH, but how do you guys feel about this? Were you happy that Cody won HOH and things like that? I guess we'll just kind of go around.
Yeah, I can start. Well, first of all, Marcelo, it's kind of funny that you mentioned flipping channels and stumbling on Big Brother 11. That was how I did it, and I stumbled upon Lydia in that, unitard or whatever it was, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And that's how I started as well. So really funny that we had that connection there. Cody being HOH is not too surprising, especially given the fact that they are moving into these more physical competitions, especially in the more big finale night. Last year they had just major physical competitions. For some reason, Big Brother thinks that right now it is more exciting to have something be of, great endurance or, amazing agility. And that clearly was what happened and why Cody got HOH. That being said, exactly. And that being said, I don't think it's the worst thing we could have gotten, but at the same time, it definitely wasn't going to be allowing for kind of more erotic, chaotic moves and everything like that in the weeks that follow. Because Cody's going to be one who's going to say, okay, I want order, I want balance, let's set the scene, and just kind of go from there.
Also, you kind of, the first HOH is really tricky. Because in every season, no one wants to be the first HOH. You hear all the people being like, "Oh, I'll throw it. I'll give it to you. Make deals happen." But we didn't get that the first HOH comp because none of the people saw how everyone did during that puzzle, and then you have a real crapshoot kind of HOH finisher competition by jumping on logs or whatever they call it to like press a button. So with Cody being
Christmas could injure herself again.
I was scared Christmas was going to break her ankle on day one. I'm going to put it out there. But seeing Cody win wasn't surprising, but also I guess we'll talk about it later. But this whole first week, no one wanted to talk game. No one wanted to take the first step forward to actually being somewhat of a leader.
Sunday's episode, just getting into it, is very different from what I feel like we normally see. It's a lot of, because of the fact that a lot of these people already have these pre-existing relationships, there's a lot of stuff like, say, Nicole, for example, Nicole F., who is trying to potentially patch things up with Devon, but you can tell Devon wants absolutely nothing to do with her, which you can't necessarily blame her for, considering there's still a lot of bad blood there. The one thing that really is disappointing me with her, though, is she is once again doing the exact same thing that she did in her other games, except for sleeping with them because, she's, obviously engaged now. And that's that her closest ally right now, she feels, is Cody. And I just do not feel like that is the right move for her, I feel like there are other options for what she should be doing. And I feel like working with Cody is just not at all in her best interest. But what do you guys think about that?
Well, what do you think her best move is, just so that we have a little
I think her best move is to ally with, people like, say, try to maybe patch things up with Devon, try to work with, Dani and things like that. I just feel like she's playing a very similar game, and especially the fact that she said she wanted to do something different. I just feel like she should be trying to work with as many people as she can, when it feels like, if anything, she's already kind of isolating herself from people, which I think is really going to hurt her in the end.
I think playing devil's advocate, she could also be downplaying relationships that she may have with a small thing with Dayton or even Devon to work that to her advantage. But the other thing I want to say with the take on the first week was that they literally were thrown into a house in a group of 4, and they had to compete right away in a competition. So they had no idea. They may or may not have known who else was going to be in the house. But I don't know if that was on the back of their mind when they're like, oh, do I want to win this puzzle and have a chance to play in the HOH, or not at all? But someone like Ian, he didn't know if he was going to be comfortable. So I think going into that first HOH, the fact that first of all, I thought anyone could have won that competition because it was literally just stepping on things. But as far as Cody winning, I don't necessarily think he needed to win, but I don't think it was the worst thing either for anyone to win the first HOH, because the thing is that they hadn't have an idea of who they wanted to work with and have those people come to them with the conversations and try to set themselves up going forward.
Yeah, it might not have been the worst thing for him to win, but that being said, based on the way this week happened, it was definitely worst case scenario, because Cody does not give us a very good first HOH at all here. He's
Not at all.
It's not what the fans want.
It's not what the fans want, but it also, I don't think, is what the house needed either. It was a very bad way to, I think, start off this first week, because Cody as an HOH, he's very inconsistent. He's doing things so haphazardly. He doesn't seem to have a full idea of what he wants to do. His whole basis for like what he does is based on relevancy, which I think is ridiculous in a game like this. And I just think overall it was a really just kind of disastrous first HOH overall. I mean, especially talking about like the conversation he has with Kaysar, when Kaysar is very obviously trying to work with him. And the fact that he doesn't see it as that is just fucking ridiculous. Like, he's trying to like make this deal, and Cody's like, oh, well, it's too early to do that. No, it's not. As an HOH, you say yes to like every deal that you possibly can. And it was just really just, I don't know what Cody was thinking, to be honest.
He had those same conversations with everyone too.
Yeah.
Like, the same conversation. It kept going. It was the same thing with every person. And it like make him feel good, but didn't cause like trust or anything with anyone.
It's also an all-star season, so no one is going in there thinking they can lay low, because if you think you're going to lay low, you're going to get taken out very soon, because everyone is expecting this all-star season to be this like grand thing. And off of the whole Cody and Kaysar situation, Cody was telling certain people, hey, you're good, like you're safe. And people were like comparing notes. People were like, what did he say to you? What did he say to you? Kaysar got the, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going to happen. And he never got that clear consensus that he's safe. So it's as the first HOH, you have to be the one to appease to everyone. Obviously, you're going to make 2 to 3 people upset, but you have to make sure that all your eggs are in the right basket.
Yeah, transparency is definitely very important for sure.
Mm-hmm. One thing I would say is that, you know, whenever somebody comes back, they want to right a wrong that they did. And during Cody's first HOH in 16, I mean, it's not a widely talked about thing, but the fact of the matter was he was so adamant of being like, Caleb is the issue. I need to go for Caleb. Yeah. Caleb is the big threat here. Yeah. And he was coaxed into doing a smaller move to put up Dani so that Brittany would go home. And so one thing that you just have to basically understand is that everyone is trying to right a wrong, right? And if he's going to go for something big, right, he understands where the big targets are. Yeah. He's going to at least make that move and go maybe a little bit more overboard than he once was. And I don't know if whether or not that's definitely what he was thinking while he was doing it, but it's at least something that you want to keep in mind, because that's his last experience with being an HOH early on in the game.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good way of looking at it, but I don't know if Cody necessarily looks at it either. I don't think he knows what he's doing, to be honest, because to me, it very much feels like Cody had Derek in Big Brother 16 to guide him along the way. And without Derek, he's kind of nothing. Like, he's not really all that good at the game. His whole basis for what he's doing again is based on, oh, I haven't watched your season. I don't know where you're from, which is, I don't know how we have all-stars in this game that legitimately have not watched those seasons. Like, I feel like that should be a requirement. Like, you know, you have to have watched at least a good portion of Big Brother. You have to know what you're doing, you know, and I feel like the fact, and even not
have no life and then just watch this stuff.
Even exactly. Even not watching it, Janelle and Kaysar are not small names. Like, I think people know who they are. And so the fact that Cody's like, I don't know who Kaysar is, I don't know where he stands, it's like, I just thought that was a really bad reasoning overall. And I will say, though, I think we can all agree in terms of gameplay, Janelle and Kaysar are absolutely the highlights right now. Yes. Everything that they're doing is really strong. Kaysar especially, I think, is playing the hell out of this game. But the problem is, because he is playing so hard, nobody's on his level. And I feel like that's what is already really hurting him here.
I also wanted to piggyback off what you said, Kevin, about Cody not having Derek. Yeah. Cody looks like a fish out of water, in my opinion, because
he does.
Derek was Cody. I'm like, Cody was Derek's sidekick, if I'm putting it bluntly. Derek had every decision made in Big Brother 16. Everyone knew where it was going. Cody was obviously the one who, obviously gave Derek the win by not evicting him in the final 3. But what also kind of correlates to that is Memphis. Memphis in Big Brother 10 was basically Dan's right-hand man. And everyone always compares Dan and Derek as two of like, from Big Brother 10 to Big Brother 22, Derek and Dan are like the two most notable master manipulators, if you want to say that. Yeah. So Derek and Dan had Memphis and Cody. So now that Memphis and Cody are both in the house, they want to right that wrong, like Ian was saying, by having a final 2 that's like rock solid, but they both don't know how to play the game without their mentor.
Yeah, it's definitely evident that they don't know how to do that. I mean, it makes sense for the two of them to work together, but Cody is just so lost, I think, throughout the entire... Yes, I definitely agree with what Ivan is saying here. Cody is definitely trying to be like the Derek of this season, and he's just not. He doesn't have it in him. I've said it so many times, like, the game that Derek played, yes, he was working with people that weren't on his level, but it's also because of the fact that he knew what he was doing, and nobody's ever going to be able to pull that off again. And Cody is already doing that, and it's just, it's not working for him at all. And so, you can definitely tell early on that Cody's in a very dangerous spot here. I think, he's connected with, say, Memphis and like Tyler and Enzo and people like that, and Nicole. But like, aside from that, I feel like Cody's putting himself in a very dangerous position after this first HOH, which we can of course get into. But going back to the Janelle and Kaysar of it all, I really liked the fact that these two knew early on, like, yeah, we are targets. We need to fight hard. We need to stick together. And it made sense because, they've worked together before. People, I don't think, are clocking them as a duo as much. Well, now they are, but early on they weren't. And so I liked the fact that right off the bat, they were like, yeah, we got to do something about this. And that leads us into the next thing, the safety suite of it all. We were hinted at this in the first episode. We figured out what it is exactly. And what did you guys think of this competition?
First of all, I'd like to point out that I realized watching the episode that the safety suite, I found this funny. The safety suite is, in other seasons, it was the door to self-evict. Yeah, so it's always really funny seeing people go straight to that door. And I'm like, what? But it's the safety suite.
Yeah, they leave in the house like...
I'm like, and
there's a lot of rooms they don't normally use. That's not usually the have-not room either.
No. But going off the safety suite, it's kind of going back to what we were talking about, how Cody was giving Janelle and Kaysar just blanket statements of answers. And Janelle knows. Janelle walked into this house. Janelle is the only person to have played this game 4 times. Janelle knows that she's not going to be in this house and going to co-spy until the final 2. That's not how Janelle plays, and she can't. Big Brother 14 was basically clear for her that when the mentors came in and she was playing, Janelle was the first target because she's been to final 3 twice. She's the best to never win, in my opinion. So knowing that, Janelle had to play this week. And I know people were saying, oh, Janelle should have played and Kaysar should have not played, or vice versa. But again, it's all stars. When you don't have that certainty, you have to take the first shot.
Yeah, because Kaysar might not win. That's the thing. Kaysar might not have won that competition. And like, God forbid he doesn't. They were first on the list. Like, it was going to be Janelle and Kaysar. And like, while this HOH definitely was not ideal, think of how much worse it would have been if right off the bat we lost one of the Janelle or Kaysar. So I do agree that I think she definitely was inclined to play that for sure. And just seeing her...
I was going to say it was good that they had a pulse to know that they should play it in the first place. The fact that they were aware enough to know where they stood in the game this early.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was definitely the right move for them. And so going about this whole safety suite thing, it's very similar to what we've been getting in, new seasons of Big Brother, where there's a room in the house, there's a competition that goes on. I'm a little bit more okay with this, though. I like this more than, say, the BB App Store or, like, Den Attention. It's not these...
100%.
Yeah, because here's the thing. when it comes to the safety suite, this is something that is only going to last a week. It's only going to last a week in terms of when you have safety. It's not this crazy power that isn't going to be, that sometimes doesn't have any effect on the game at all, because it's given so early in advance that when it's used, it's like, oh, that's what we were waiting for. We're not going to get that this season. It's a little bit more basic than that. It's really just a lanyard that you wear around your neck, giving you safety. You can't be nominated. You can't go up at all in the week. And so I think that it's definitely a smart move, and it's something that these all-stars absolutely need. And I'm wondering, if it's something that is going to expire very soon, because I feel like,
I think it's only the first 3 weeks, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure.
Let's say hypothetically it wasn't. I feel like it would regardless, because I feel like everyone's going to want to get safety. Everyone's going to want to get in there and make sure they have a chance at it, because it's something that, can make or break the week for you, especially when you're Janelle or Kaysar. Oh, we have someone else joining us right now. She's a little late, but she is here finally. Here is Jenn Rudolph. Yes.
Yay. Hi, Jen.
Yes, we're talking about the safety suite.
Now it's a party.
Yes, it is a party with Janelle. We got a lot of Florida people in here. Florida Alliance, Ian, Jenn, and Brian.
Stop outing our alliance. We've never been in a game together.
Yeah.
Kevin and I are just the outsiders here.
Pretty much. Yeah. So, no, I was talking about the safety suite though. I really like the way that Janelle and Kaysar played this. I like that Kaysar played first, and then it was Janelle. Seeing Janelle go into that safety suite, just such a badass. It reminded us just how great Janelle is at the game. And the way that the competition was designed too, I thought was interesting. It's like basically like it's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but it's like as like it's like remixed and
the dubstep version.
Yeah, and it's one that is definitely hard to do, because it's like one of those things where you have to push the buttons to make sure that the song goes as it should. And I really like this comp a lot. I thought it was definitely really well done, and I like the fact that Kaysar ended up winning this and not Janelle, because I thought for sure Janelle was going to end up getting it, but then Kaysar got it, and I think that it definitely was the right thing for him and Janelle, because he can save Janelle. They're both safe moving forward. I think Janelle would have saved him regardless, but I was
going to say, did they talk about it at all as far as like if it would give him like a threat level because it's a competition?
I think he really just felt scared from that conversation with Cody. Like he did not feel secure after that at all. And so I feel like because of that, he's like, I got to go balls to the wall here. Like, fuck it. I need to win this competition. And he did. And then him and Janelle had safety, which was great. I was very happy about that. And Jen, we were talking about it before, but I think you can agree. Nobody seems to be on Janelle and Kaysar's level at this point in terms of game.
Oh, no. And it was interesting because I feel like I remember them saying like in the first episode or so, they were talking about like trying to like kind of like downplay the fact that they really haven't like seen each other much since they played together, and they didn't really want to like pin themselves as like that duo. But like I feel like with Janelle and Kaysar, that's like virtually impossible to do. Exactly. Like it's Janelle and Kaysar, like they're Janelle and Kaysar, like they're going to be known as that duo. So it definitely was beneficial for Kaysar to save Janelle in the safety suite for sure.
Yeah.
Was there anyone else that was scared? I was going to say, was anyone else like thinking of playing in that, or that was scared? Because it seemed on the episode that it was just like a last minute, and they're like, oh, you only have a few minutes to decide.
I don't think anyone, from what I remember, I don't think anyone was that scared, because they knew that if Kaysar and Janelle didn't play, then Kaysar and Janelle were going to be the ones that were up for eviction. But I also wanted to point out something that I find interesting in what Jen was saying about how Janelle and Kaysar are a duo. And this season has brought us a lot of duos, whether they are working or not. We have Tyler and Bayleigh from Big Brother 20. We have Nicole and Cody. We also have Nicole Anthony and David from last season. And so whether those pairs are actually together or not, they're going to be seen as a pair, because the way you go into your season is when you're with someone from your season, you have to link up because you know what the struggle of what your season went through. And from what I can remember, we have I'm thinking of Memphis and Keesha. Like those, we have a lot of pairs that people aren't looking at because the main pair everyone's looking at is Janelle and Kaysar because it's Janelle and Kaysar.
So I want to say something that might be controversial. I think that the safety suite is the best twist, like early twist that we have seen since the coach's twist in 14.
Oh,
where you could save somebody.
I like it.
I think that this finally allows for us to have a moment where there's something in which people who are on the outs have a chance to put fate into their own hands and make a decision there and finally get something that happens. And I feel like it's the same with the coach's twist where they were able to, work hard to be able to save one of their own and then potentially put that name out there as like, oh, you're getting saved. What's the issue there? I did hear that Taryn Armstrong, who's with RHAP, did talk about the fact that it just would be nicer if the live feeds would be able to show all of that potential strategizing of should we not go in, so we could really feel how people are actually feeling going up to the moment that door closes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not too overpowered. It doesn't alter the game because I feel like that's been happening a lot lately. Like we have these powers that just drastically changes the game, and it seems like it's going to be something that, gives people too much power. This isn't like this because, like I said, you only have it for, a week and you can't get it after that. And I think that that's fair for everyone. I think that it makes sense for you to get it because you can, like Ian said, put faith in your own hands. And I also do agree with what Ivan's saying here. This is absolutely one of the moments where Keesha fucked up because, she also didn't feel secure. Need I remind you, the whole reason Cody goes after her is because he didn't know who the fuck she was. So it's like, she probably should have maybe gone in there as well. And the fact that she didn't, I think she definitely kind of made her own bed there in terms of what she did. But wrapping up Sunday's events, Cody does decide to go for Keesha and Kevin, unfortunately. Really, really bad first pair of nominations right off the bat. How did you guys feel about this? Do you think he made the right decision? What do we think?
He didn't really have anything to base it off of.
Yeah, I think for him, for it being the first week, in hindsight, it really is the better decision. I didn't necessarily love the decision,
of course,
because I did not want either of those two to leave. But for his personal game, it probably was just the best decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think it definitely was the best decision for him, but he definitely does not go about it all that well. And that gets us into Wednesday's events, in which Cody is just not really good at this game, very much at all. Every time that Kevin is trying to talk to him, he just makes him more and more paranoid. Every time that he's offered some kind of deal, he kind of shuts it down. He makes it very clear who he wants to work with and who he doesn't. And I feel like as a first HOH, you just got to say yes to everything. It's early enough to where, you're pretty much like an open book at that point. I don't think there is any deal that you should say no to, especially when you're in Cody's position. And I feel like he put himself in a really bad spot. And if what happened at the end of this week didn't happen in terms of HOH, I feel like Cody could have potentially been heading out the door after this, because I think this was just disastrous HOH for him overall.
Playing devil's advocate, though, do you think that Keesha and Kevin really made the strongest pitches to him? Because Kevin just seemed to be whiny or be like, oh, I've never been considered cool, and been more about the personal stuff versus necessarily about the game, in my opinion.
I think Kevin just really wants to play, and he's doing everything that he potentially can to do so. But I do agree with you that I do think he needed maybe a bit of a stronger pitch but he also didn't really need much of anything because Keesha isn't doing shit to help herself. She's very much just chilling. She's not really doing much of it. She's not really doing any sort of, bonds or anything like that. She's very much just to herself. And I know I talked to some people. I don't know if it was you guys about this before, but I know in Big Brother 10, the way that it would work to be nominated is one person would just end up flying off the handle and be, becoming increasingly erratic and basically make themselves the target. And so I think Keisha's used to that. She's not used to having to fight for herself, but it was never going to work in this scenario. It was never going to work. She was already the target. And yeah, she absolutely, I agree. She absolutely relied on
good points today.
Yeah.
Ivan is killing it with these points.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. We got to get Ivan on here at some point.
That smile too in his headshot. Oh my
100%. No, Keesha 100% just relied on Janelle and Kaysar, which I don't think they really had her best interest at all. I mean, I think that's what really did hurt her.
Keesha also knows how to play this game. And she knows, because she was on Big Brother 10. She made it to the Final Four. She knows how to wheel and deal her way. And it just didn't seem like she was there to play. It just seemed like she was there to, visit for a week, visit her friends for a week. And it's just, it was kind of sad to see, in my opinion, because I was really hoping we saw Big Brother 10 Keesha. And I feel like people kind of were not aware of how good Kevin is in this game. This week we didn't really see it because Kevin was trying his best to appease to Cody.
Yes.
But if we remember Big Brother 11, like Kevin is basically one of those players that just was a sneak attack to the end. He's the one who evicted Jeff. So we all have that memory of Kevin being the one to take the shot. So I'm very interested to see how far Kevin goes in this game, and I'm very interested to see what he does.
Yeah. We also do get to see some other alliances forming on this episode, especially between Bayleigh and Devon. And I know you, Ian, were just raving about Bayleigh before we came on here, so I know you got a lot to say there.
Bayleigh was my winner pick from the beginning, and I really was saying that that's very based on one specific thing, and that's if Tyler and Bayleigh are good. Right. And I do think that right now, despite the fact that they are in obviously very differing alliances at the moment, Tyler feels a connection to her and feels like he has wronged her so badly in 20 that he won't do it again, and therefore will be protecting her from that other side. Bayleigh obviously has insulated herself very, very nicely in many different factions of this game too. And unfortunately, the person that she is most connected to, Devon, is a little bit flying off the handle in many different instances. And as much as we want to be able to see Devon do well, I love everything that she says outside of the game, but oh man, like I'm surprised that she's not a nomination for second week. And I don't know whether or not we're able to talk about that yet, but
I'm a huge Devon fan, have been since 17, and I feel like she was very robbed in 18. I felt like she could have went a long way in 18. And you always want to root for two people who, have been wronged in their seasons, and Bayleigh and Devon are two people who have absolutely been wronged in their seasons. Bayleigh in Big Brother 20, she was the one that I was really rooting for. And then when the whole house basically turned on her, it was just so rough to watch. So that moment in that episode when they're talking to each other about this is our alliance, this is where we're at. And what's really interesting is, and I know I keep talking about other seasons, but the way that Bayleigh and Devon were talking to each other is, I'm throwing it way back, is kind of how Jason and Danielle Reyes in Big Brother 3, I believe, they were both in the middle and had their side alliances. So I think that Bayleigh and Devon, I do agree with Ian though, Devon is kind of getting a little off track, but Bayleigh and Devon are so perfectly in the middle of this game, and I really hope that they continue doing that.
I think people also underestimate just how close those two really are. When Bayleigh was pregnant in Big Brother 20 and she found out and Devon found out about it, she did everything she can to try to help her through it. So these two have a very close bond. And I was also very happy to see, and we can talk about this, the editing on this season feels completely different from editing.
Who's the editor?
Thank God.
I hope it's because they're listening. I hope it's because they are.
Are they watching Sequester? Is that what it is? Are they seeing how inclusive everything is? Because the stuff the autism segment, which I don't feel like we'd ever see, unless it was related to say a different conversation that Dani said how, oh, Ian's using that for strategy. I was really hoping that they wouldn't show that, and I was happy they didn't, and that they just left it as this really nice moment of Ian realizing that, yeah, I'm on the spectrum and I can say it now. And Kaysar also realizing that, you know, and saying that, yeah, I know because I'm also on the spectrum. I feel like it's just these kind of raw conversations that we don't normally get to see on the show. We might see them on the feeds, but we don't really get to see them like portrayed on the show.
The only time I've seen that was like BB10, I guess, when they were having the conversation. I think it was Dan with that, oh, you're like the first gay guy that like I met, like talked to before, or he was asking like Jen City about that.
Yeah.
And the only other time I've seen that too is on Big Brother Canada, actually, with like Adele, and like they were like praying together. So like I really haven't seen those moments portrayed necessarily on the live show.
Yeah, it's just super refreshing to see. And then like the conversation that Kaysar has about what it means to be like Muslim and him trying to protect his family and things like that. Just really good stuff. And like, no, obviously it's not game related, but I think it's important. You know, these people, we have to remember, are people. You know, they do have a life outside of this game. And I like the fact that we were able to see that. And I think conversations like that are important, and I hope it continues. And so seeing stuff like the reason I bring it up is because the Bayleigh and Devon of it all is something I don't normally think we would see. And the fact that they even had a segment about it, how those two are together and how they feel so secure with each other, I was very happy that they brought up, because I feel like those two are rock solid at the moment and are going to be in a really good spot throughout this entire season.
I do, however, of course, worry because they did put that in right away, which means, therefore, if they ever do have to turn on each other, it's going to become a much bigger storyline and could potentially make it look really bad, you know, at the same time. That's the only thing I would say would be the only like concerning thing, right? If you put it in there, you now have to follow that storyline for the rest of the game, and we don't know. I mean, obviously they are gamers and they could potentially turn at some point.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think that I think that definitely it's good that they showed it, but you do always have to worry, like, is there an ulterior motive there? You know how Big Brother is with that kind of stuff. But you know what? I feel like I'm just happy that they showed that overall. But getting back to what Ivan said here again, with another really good insight, you know, was this really the best move for the house? Because, you know, Keesha was loyal and things like that. The answer is that I don't really feel like Keesha gave them much of a choice, to be honest. Because it's not like she was doing anything. Because look, it would be one thing if she just kind of sat out, didn't do much fighting, but tried to build stuff with people. Like said to Devon, I want to work with you. Said to others that she wanted to work with them. She didn't do that. And I feel like that's what ended up really hurting her in the end of it all.
I think it would have been different too, because usually these weeks start out where it's like the huge guys alliance or the huge like women's alliance or like someone causing chaos in the house, which didn't seem to be the case. I feel like if someone did something to like annoy the house, they would have been a more easier target. But as far as like moving forward, I don't necessarily think it was the worst move putting them up, and the fact that Keisha's going, because unless they felt like they could have really used her further in that game, which I don't. I think she was more of a wild card, and who knows where she would have stood with everyone. Versus
I think the thing is that they got the sense that Kevin still wanted to, you know, to be there, still wanted a chance to play, things like that. Keesha is very much dead weight. She's there for a stipend. She's there because she could get like the 40K or whatever. And then I think she just realized, oh, I don't really want to be here. So I think that's what ended up happening with Keesha overall. So yeah, I think that while maybe it's not the most interesting move, I do think. What the fuck?
Who's that?
I don't know.
That's me.
Oh. Oh.
Well, I was gonna say, if that's the case, if someone's like so easy and they want to go out, wouldn't you just keep them at that point and get rid of someone that's like there to play? I mean,
I also feel like, and I could be wrong, but this kind of reminds me of Survivor Winners at War, where it was old school versus new school. And there's such a, and Big Brother's not like that because it's, you know, but there has to be, you know, Keesha and Memphis are from Big Brother 10, which is like the, you know, earlier seasons, obviously. So I kind of feel like the house is kind of getting to that split of if you were from Big Brother like 15 to 21, we're going to work together. If you're from Big Brother, 10 to 1, like that's, we only have Janelle, Kaysar, Keesha, and Memphis from those seasons, unless I'm forgetting someone. But that's kind of where I was gauging, because like we said earlier, a lot of these people haven't seen the earlier seasons, which blows my mind, because those are prime Big Brother. So
Yes.
It's also a matter of, I'm sure you guys feel this way when you end up playing some of these online games, but it's you'd rather keep around the devil you know versus the devil you don't. I don't know how well Keesha has tried to stick around in the community. You also, mentioned the fact that like she was so calm when, if you did watch 10, you watch her, saying how she can't stand people's guts and how she's out screaming at people and she's, in your face. And you watch now a woman who is obviously much more mature and being much calmer, and therefore you have no idea what she's potentially capable of later on. So that would be part of why someone would then say, okay, I just have absolutely no idea what will eventually come of keeping her past this point.
Anybody want cake? That's all it is. Anybody want cake?
I watched that clip like 20 times in the last week.
Oh, how could you not? It's an iconic clip. But going back to the Kevin of it all, the one thing that I was definitely confused by is his decision to, with house guest choice for the veto, pick Enzo out of everyone. I thought was a very strange choice here. I'm not really sure why he really did that, if there's something I'm missing.
The iconic line of, hey, I don't want to put you in a bad situation, but like saying that to like two different people.
Yeah.
I
felt like Aubrey wanting a dialogue with people.
Yes. I feel like Enzo wasn't the choice, but at the end of the day, who was? Because Kevin really didn't have, you never want to put someone else's neck on the line in Big Brother, because if I said like I'm gonna pick Ian, people are gonna think, oh, Marcelo and Ian are working together, like we have to get that duo.
You don't want to work together?
Apart. I mean, come on, Ian, we're live. No, it's just like you never know when you do house guest choice, because house guest choice could be a really good thing or a really bad thing, because you don't want to reveal who your allies are. But on the line of Enzo, picking Enzo, first of all, I don't really know why he did that, because obviously we see in the episode Enzo wins and doesn't use it, because why would Enzo use it week 1? Like that doesn't benefit him at all. So
Enzo's in a very interesting spot where like he doesn't really have anyone. He's kind of just like gaining allies. Like he's using what he can get from like Tyler and Memphis and Cody, and I think because of that, like he's trying to not ruffle any feathers. And I feel like for Enzo, it's definitely the right move for him to not use that. I think it was definitely the right move overall. But again, it's like I just don't know why he would choose Enzo out of everyone. Like choose Ian, choose Nicole. Like you had other options there. Not entirely sure why.
I think that he probably was just like hoping like people that he was closer with, like Ian and Nicole like maybe he didn't necessarily have like confidence in their ability to win the competition for him.
Yeah, and
it was trying to build that like allyship, friendship, whatever you may call it, with Enzo, and it just didn't really work out in his favor.
Which is interesting, because if I remember, like from watching the veto, which one of the funniest probably power vetoes I think we've ever seen.
An iconic.
Oh my god.
That was something.
Gosh. Enzo riding a banana in slow motion is an image I don't think I'll ever get rid of in my head. So.
I know, right?
I was just going to say also, think about, again, Kevin's the only one from his season. Often people bond with the people who are from the season before and the season after. True. He's put up with someone from the season before, and the only other person from the season before would probably ride with her, whereas he now is going to go for somebody with 12 and therefore would think that Enzo is the likely option there. Unfortunately, Enzo's playing this game for himself. This isn't the type of person that Enzo would normally want to try and work with. And Kevin should have kind of understood that and not been basing things off of maybe just vibes that he's getting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I also feel like, though, it's interesting that you bring up Ian because if I remember, Ian was very close to winning this and he didn't. So maybe it might have been in his best interest to potentially pick Ian because I think Ian, if he had picked him and Enzo wasn't picked, maybe could have won this competition. And I think he might have potentially taken Kevin down. Now, who would have gone up? I don't know. I mean, Easter's pretty absent from this week, so like.
Oh my God, we love Labor Day.
Yes. Arbor Day is very quiet. She's not really on this show much at all. So I feel like maybe she would have gone up in his place, but I don't really feel like at the end of the day it would have really changed much because still Keesha wasn't really doing much of anything. But that's really everything that goes down on the Wednesday side of things. I think the only other thing to really talk about is they're kind of giving Tyler a similar edit to what they did in 20. But the difference is, while in 20, I think he managed a lot of these one-on-ones really well. Yes, Madison. Flag Day.
Madison.
Flag Day is not getting screen time.
Madison Queen.
We love. I will say though, sorry to take a side note, but
it's fine.
I'm gonna be real. I totally forgot Take Your Kid to Work Day was on this season. I did not realize that Christmas was in the season in the game until you said I was like,
we love Thanksgiving. We love Thanksgiving. She's not giving us much of anything, and that's perfectly fine with me.
Go girl, give us nothing.
Yes, girl, give us nothing.
Give us absolutely nothing. It's better than to give us nothing than to be a train wreck like you were in 19. But that's a whole other can of worms. Going back to Tyler though, he's trying to play a very similar game to how he did in 20. And while I feel like a lot of those one-on-ones worked for him, I don't necessarily know if that's the case in this game because he's already putting himself in, I think, a very dangerous position. He has one-on-ones with, Cody. He has one with Enzo. He has one with Memphis. He has one with Nicole F and things like that. He has ones with a lot of people. And I just don't know if he's going to be able to survive that long.
Well, that's also, I was going to say that's something interesting to bring up, the dynamics of how they're going to play this game this time versus the last time. And to Ian's point, they want to right any wrongs that they made, but they know that they've made it far by playing a certain way, with the exception of David, I guess.
Yeah, who hasn't played at all.
Who doesn't know how to vote.
Yeah.
That was the funniest
honestly, and speaking of David, I do think that he is downplaying his
I agree.
not knowing the game because he's obviously physical outside of I'm actually they're all physical pretty much, but I think he's definitely downplaying his game and trying to work socially.
Oh, he is, and I think it's working, but I also think it's not working.
I feel like Tyler. I'm gonna say something that might be. Yes.
Say the controversial stuff.
Yeah.
Say it.
I'm not. I can't. People can.
Spill the tea.
But Tyler is not. I'm not a Tyler stan. I'm just not. I wasn't a Tyler I told this before we went live, but I was all about the hive in Big Brother 20. I was never about the level.
But what's
6
wrong with
alliance.
Angela?
Yeah.
Come on, Rachel Swindler. But it's just Tyler did this like we said, he did the exact same thing that he did in Big Brother 20. He had 2 alliances that both trusted him, and then there came a point where he had to pick a side. He ended up picking his real alliance, but and
it worked for him.
But the thing about him is he always does these side alliances, these final twos. He has a final two with me. He has a final two with you, Ian, and Kevin, and Jenn, and he has a final two with everyone. He has. It's gonna catch up to him.
Mine's the real one.
He said that to me first. But
he just said that to me.
It's just he's gonna get caught because it's an all-star season and this is a cutthroat cast. We haven't seen it in the first week, but I know the minute something strikes, everyone's gonna go balls to the wall and on fire. And I feel like Tyler might be the one to get caught in the crossfire.
I'm going to take the reverse side of that. I actually think that based on the current dynamics of the house and just how spread out people feel like they are, because so many people were going into this expecting certain people that they were already going to talk to pregame and work with.
Yeah.
And so many people feel very alone. Whereas Tyler was the known quantity through a lot of this. Tyler and Nicole right, were the known quantities through all of this. There was no question that if they were going to be asked, they were going to be brought onto the season. And because Nicole A didn't take advantage of that opportunity and do the pregame and actually feel like she's, got a good handle on the house, and Tyler does, people will feel a lot more at least needing to trust him at the very beginning here. If he does go out at some point, it's probably because, like Marcelo said, that it might come back to bite him. But I just don't see it. I think that his personality is so unbelievably likable in the house that people are just like kind of spilling everything, and then also, saying, okay, that's fine. I'm down to go with this final two. And if nobody else, makes that final two deal in enough time, then they're going to say, well, I'm going to honor this deal that I had from the very beginning.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I also feel like it's also because a lot of people coming into this obviously thought Casey was also going to be there. So I would not be surprised if he had all this pre-gaming with Casey originally going to be there, and then she's not, and now he's using that to his advantage, stuff that Casey might have done. And I feel like, while he's definitely in a dangerous position, it is, maybe it might be beneficial towards him, because we haven't really talked about like the pre-gaming of it all, which is definitely very messy. And we can already see is definitely having some kind of an impact, because you have the old schoolers that didn't really connect with the new schoolers. And there's some connections there. There's some problems there. So
can I say, if Casey was on this season,
it'd be so boring.
I feel way worse about Tyler's position, but even more confident that Bayleigh would have won.
Yeah,
1000%.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, you have to also realize that, and what I find funny about pre-gaming is Josh was also supposed to be on this season, allegedly, apparently. So obviously, I'm glad he wasn't either. So you obviously know that like 4th of July and, Josh would have been like the final two. And now that Tyler and I'm just trying to find holidays to talk about Christmas, like
Cinco de Mayo.
Yes. Cinco de Mayo. Yes. Cinco de Mayo and Tyler are both they're both lost without, and it's not the same as like Dan and Derek not being on with Cody and Memphis. It's not like that type of relationship. It's Cinco de Mayo and Tyler are planning a final two because they thought that their ride or dies were gonna be in the season as well, and it's just like that's not, thankfully they aren't, but
come on, Susie. You don't want more meatballs on there. You don't want more pots and pans.
Oh, just the pots and pans.
Themes.
Yeah. So there's that aspect of Tyler and International Cat Day. Yeah, Tyler and International Cat Day. They have to rely on each other because they thought their pairs were going to be on.
I'm just imagining like a Brant Steele with like actual players and then just like a bunch of like random holiday pictures.
Oh my God. It's all Christmas. It's all Christmas. It's just a season of Christmas, which what a cast that would be. Going back to Tyler though, he and Bayleigh do decide to patch things up, which I was happy to see. I feel like them being on good standing with each other is really good. And it is what Nicole and Davon can't seem to do, which, I can't really blame Davon for it, because the way Nicole comes off is very like passive aggressive and things like that. Whereas I feel like Tyler and Bayleigh did a really good thing in being like, let's put the past behind us, that, we were in a bad position, but you know what? Things are better now. We're in different places in our lives. We're the only two people from our season. Why not work together? It's such an easy in that way. And so I think that it was definitely the right move. And I think moving forward, Bayleigh should definitely be his closest ally. Like, I feel like those two should go back. And especially if the Davon and Bayleigh, like if there's cracks in that foundation, those two, I think, could really ride things out and could really work well together. And I want to see that. I definitely want to see more of the dynamic between Tyler and Bayleigh for sure.
I'm just interested to see how long it goes.
Yeah.
Because I respect Tyler going to Bayleigh and saying, look, I wronged you in 20. I want to make it up to you. And
Mhm.
same with Nicole being like, thank you so much for voting me and changing my life. And I'm like, okay. But with Bayleigh and Tyler, you have to, I feel like Bayleigh's going to forgive, but she won't forget. And I think that's something and that's why I love Bayleigh, because she is a very emotional player when it comes to relationships and friendships, that I do believe that she does trust Tyler. But you also have to remember you're playing with Tyler Crispen, who played Big Brother 20, as some people say, flawlessly. I'm not one of those people, but it's just like
It wasn't flawless because he didn't win.
and also remember who didn't give him the win. Who was the last vote to not give him the win?
Right.
Bayleigh.
I will say, though, I think that it's easier to come into this whole thing as the wronged and not the person doing wrong unto another. Because I think that it does like serve like at least something on Tyler's conscience. I mean, it was very clear that he at least said that that's what it is. He'd be pretty sadistic if it was not genuine. But I mean, we've all played games in which like you wrong somebody and then you say like, okay, if I'm ever playing with this person again, like it just hurts. It eats me up too much to do that a second time.
Exactly.
I mean, some people are that cutthroat. I just don't necessarily see Tyler as somebody who, I mean, he's got a great image now with like the company that he's working with Angela. I don't see it potentially going any way except for Bayleigh now gets to take a shot at Tyler. But we will see what happens.
Yeah, and Susie brought this up because we haven't really brought her up much. Dani into the conversation. She's quiet. She's definitely quiet this week. She's laying low. How do we feel about Dani in the house right now?
I think she's positioned herself very well. I'm not gonna lie. I think that a lot of people are confiding in her and like are trying to work with her, and she's not doing too much to put herself out there that it seems like it's threatening, which I didn't think was necessarily going to be the case based off of like the first couple days of feeds.
Yeah. Also, we have to remember she's best friends with Nicole Franzel, and no one's kind of picking up on that. They basically, which is funny because during the Victor proposing to Nicole on Big Brother 20, Dani was there. So, I'm interested to know why people aren't clocking that. Maybe it's too early to clock that, but in feeds they're always together talking about like what is going to happen this week. So I want to know where Dani's loyalty lies, but also where does Nicole's loyalty lie, because she also has so many allies.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting where she's going to stand, because on one hand she can work with Nicole F, but I don't know if Nicole F wants to work with her as much as she wants to work with her. Nicole F, we know, just notoriously just doesn't want to work with women. So it's like, I don't know if that's such an easy and again, period. On the first night when the two of them are talking on the feeds, I'm like, oh, this is really good. I like seeing Nicole, having a connection with a woman. It's different for her. It's a different, because she's talking about how, she's not happy with the way she played in 18, but right now she's playing the exact same way. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating as a viewer, because a lot of these people are trying to play different games, and I don't really think she's doing anything that different. And it's
in her defense, though, I don't think she had like in 8, because in 17 she had
16
alliance of the women. 6, sorry, that she was on like the outs of the women's alliance, so she wasn't included in that. And then in her next game, it worked better for her not to with those women.
Also, another kind of side note on Dani is, I remember on the feeds, Dani was talking about going after Janelle and Nicole Anthony, and was talking about, I just want to get rid of them. It's not because I hope people don't think it's because I'm targeting women. And it's like, that's interesting, because Nicole, Franzel, so them being together, it's like, it's mirror image.
Yeah, and I was worried for a while that like Nicole F was bringing out the worst in Dani, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like she's well positioned in the house, and that's good to see. But going back to the Nicole A of it all, the one thing we haven't talked about is that Nicole A is in a really interesting position here, where she's new school, but she's mainly working with old school people. And I like that. I like that because this is a very much old school versus new school cast. And I like that Nicole is kind of like the neutrality of that. Like she's very neutral in the sense where she's willing to work with both parties. And I think that's going to help her, but I also feel like it's going to simultaneously hurt her because her reads are like terrible right now from what I've heard.
Yeah. She also, go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just gonna. I really enjoy her and Kevin as like a pair.
Yeah, they're great.
She comes into this game as the biggest name from the most recent season. She comes in as obviously a clear fan favorite, but the strategy to back it up was what we obviously want to see as fans and like people who are really striving for her to win at the very end there, and then missed out on that opportunity.
Yeah.
The idea that right now we're just seeing a lackluster performance is disheartening, but I don't think that we should count it out yet.
No.
I think that there is going to be a lot of bloodbath that potentially is going to come to a head at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And if she can survive this round, which I don't know, I haven't been watching feeds closely enough to know like where it's kind of swinging, or obviously once what happens with veto and everything. But if she can survive this, she becomes the weakened pawn who, survived the block on a week 2 HOH by somebody who was just kind of such a wild card doing it, that the next opportunity is going to be taking out these big threats. And once Janelle and Kaysar sit on that block, it's an all-out war. They're going to figure out a way to try and go after the other people too.
No, exactly. I also feel like, though, and I brought this up before, I think a lot of what we're seeing with Nicole is that she is not used to the idea of people actually wanting to work with her. And it's sad because last season, everyone just ostracized her. They treated her like shit. Her closest ally was someone who was not good at the game at all. And so I feel like the fact that she's working with these people that are all-stars and they feel for her, she's just not used to it. Like I saw something on the feeds where she's like, wait, I can put shaker bottles in the fridge. It's really sad. Like I feel like while she has these bad reads, I don't really blame her for it because I think for a while she's just going to feel like people are not genuine and they don't actually want to work with her. And I think eventually if she can survive, I think she'll be able to get past that. I think she'll be able to realize, oh, people do want to work with me. I guess I can, start some legitimate alliances. But I think at the moment, she's not really sure if she's actually included in it. And I kind of feel bad, I think it has a lot to say about like what something like that can do to someone. It has an effect on someone. And I think it's a good fuck you to Big Brother 21,
So what does she need to do to get out of this week unscathed?
What does she need to do? Well, I mean, we can get more into that when we talk about next week. But I think moving forward, I think where she is at the moment, I think she needs to figure out who she really wants to work with and really just solidify something and realize people actually do want to work with her, get out of her own head for a little bit. And I think she will. I think she'll be in a good position. The only other thing to really talk about, as we said, is the vote that goes down at the end with Keesha. It's completely unanimous, which, I mean, in an all-star season, you would definitely not expect that. And going to an earlier point that Ivan brought up, do you think someone should have maybe thrown a Hinky vote in there?
I do and I don't. Mm-hmm. I do because I want the drama. Give me the drama. I want someone to give me the drama. But I also don't because if you are a game player, you don't want to be the one. I mean, you don't want to be the one person to put a vote on someone and it backfiring on you. And we also, sometimes it works, like last season where I don't remember who was on the block, but I think Jackson voted Nicole and Nicole had one vote against her and the whole house went crazy. So it's like you have those moments where you can cause chaos, but it's too early. It's too early to.
I disagree. I think you throw the Hinky vote. You're not going to know who did it. You're not going to know who did it.
Yeah,
well, it's going to cause chaos and people in the house, and the chances are is that if you know you're not one that's going to blow up, someone else will.
Well, also, let me disagree on the disagreement. It's like you have the one vote, you know who it's going to be. It's either going to be Janelle or Kaysar. And they can, because no one believes Janelle and Kaysar are, they could think of Hinky vote is thrown because they wanted to save Keesha. So it's like, you never know who that one Hinky vote is. I think we're like agreeing, but I just like to disagree.
It depends on the person that does it and if they think that they would be the one that would be blamed for the Hinky vote relative to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Who would care the most?
Who would care the most?
I feel like Cody, and therefore it's okay because Cody's
Nicole
not the
she blamed Janelle.
Nicole would blame Janelle.
Yeah, because she blames Janelle for literally everything under the sun. No, I think when it comes to Hinky votes, it's definitely something we would expect in an All-Star season. If you would have told me that the first vote would be unanimous in an All-Star season, I'd be like, there's no way. They're way too they're just way too aggressive to do something like that. But I feel like it speaks a lot to, like I said, just the base level of gameplay we're getting right now, which is just not that interesting. And that's why this Cody HOH just wasn't ideal at all, because it doesn't make for a very exciting week. It gives us gameplay that just I'm not a big fan of. I like gameplay that, you have votes going every which way and you're not entirely sure where people are going to fall. It's more exciting that way. It gives us more to talk about, and especially in an All-Star season. They even brought this up. Like, I saw something on the feeds where Davon's like, yeah, we can't let this happen again. It's like, if you thought that, why didn't you cast a Hinky vote? Like, if you didn't want to do that, I don't understand why you don't just, I don't know. It was dumb.
Who would you have wanted to be HOH if you guys could pick someone else that would stir it up more, make it a better week?
For week one.
Yep.
For week one.
Yeah, for week one.
Week one out of the ones we had, I mean, I think Nicole would have been interesting. I think the most interesting of the ones we had, wasn't of the first group. I think Christmas HOH would have been interesting. I don't know what that would have been like.
No.
Definitely, I would not have loved that. But I don't know. I just feel like it was a very, very base level first HOH, and I feel like it could have been more interesting with some of the other people we had. I would have to go back and see who the others were that were in the.
I would be interested in a Kevin HOH because I know Kevin was one of them. But.
See, I actually. Oh, you're talking about only the people who made it past the first round.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say the only person I think overall, and I know that she didn't make it past the first round, that would make it like a super interesting, iconic HOH for the first round would have been Janelle.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's like the biggest name by far as like personality and, like over enthusiastic HOH. Everybody else has won an HOH in the past, or at least a bunch of them have. But I don't think that anything that they did during their HOH reign is like a known real quantity to make some sort of big power move or anything like that.
Yeah.
It just is kind of, stay the course here. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, no, I do definitely agree with that. But the only other thing left to talk about now that we have the vote out of the way, I did like that Julie acknowledged who Keesha was, that she won fan favorite and things like that, and that people should remember her, because the whole narrative of the week was, who the hell is Keesha? I don't know who this is. And so I liked the fact that, people definitely, that Julie did acknowledge her. I don't love the fact that Julie wasn't wearing a mask, but, that's a whole other conversation.
Period.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. It's like, treat others the way you want to be treated. Maybe you should wear your fucking mask. But, aside from that, I actually did really like the way that was done. But then that leads us into one of the strangest HOH comps I've ever seen. This Zoom video thing. I don't know what the fuck this was. These videos we had were just horrible. I feel like Big Brother tries to be really, what the hell was this? And then power of veto or something. I don't know.
Uncle Vito.
That terrifies me still.
I feel like Big Brother, they try to be really modern and things like that, and every time they do, it just falls so flat. And this is a perfect example of that. I don't know what the HOH videos really were, but basically they had to watch these videos. They had to do this whole competition, and ultimately it comes down to really, I think the most unenthusiastic winner we could have gotten in Memphis ends up winning HOH here, which we'll see what happens. I mean, we were
Brian's
Yay.
excited at
Brian
least.
is the only one.
Brian is the only one in this chat excited.
yeah, Brian's very happy that Memphis.
I want to see what he does. I mean,
I do too, but it just, I don't know. I just feel like I'm a big fan of the pendulum, switching from week to week, and the fact that it didn't, and it's basically the same people in charge. I'm just not that big of a fan of it, I'm just not that big of a fan. I guess we'll see what ends up happening, but Memphis has not been particularly interesting so far, so maybe he can prove me wrong, but right now, not really into that at all. And I'm worried that it's going to be more base level gameplay, which it's not exciting. I mean, again, it might not be horrible gameplay, but it's just not that exciting to talk about. Like I'd rather it be really bad or really good. The fact that it's like mid tier, it's just not as exciting to me.
It's also, obviously, like you never know if Memphis is going to go for a big move or do a safe choice. It's just also Memphis is such a wild card. Memphis isn't, in a huge alliance or like he thinks he is, but Memphis has this kind of way of him that you're just like, do I trust this person? I don't know. So it's like Memphis being HOH was probably the last person I wanted because it's just I'm gonna say it. It's just a Cody HOH again.
It is 100%. Like it's basically gonna be similar to what we got last week, and I'm just not here for that. I'm not here for that at all. I like seeing things change up. I was so pulling for like a Nicole A win or something like that because I think that would have been interesting to see. And the fact that we didn't get that was not ideal overall. But in terms of, this week, that's really all we have to talk about. I think we pretty much did cover everything. If there's anything from this first week that we didn't discuss, I mean, I guess y'all can bring it up, but I think we pretty much covered it all.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see, what's going to happen with the safety suite and who Memphis is going to nominate.
Yeah, definitely.
Do we want to talk about Keisha's response once she's left the house?
Oh, yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah.
Oh, that was iconic. I was like, yes, Keesha, call Memphis and Cody out.
So,
let's do that.
First off, we know that this confirms that there will not be a battle back this season, which is unfortunate because, we get a lot of all-stars here, but I also feel like it makes sense considering that they've been quarantined for 2 weeks anyway. Asking them to be like, yeah, can you just go back in quarantine? It's like probably not the best thing to do. I did love when Keesha is like, well, back to the COVID house. She was ready to get back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that response was crazy the way that was done because you could see that she knew what was going on. She had the potential. I just personally don't think she really wanted to play, and I think that's what it is. I think she likes watching it. She likes talking about it. I don't think she really wanted to play, and I think that's what that response comes down to.
It's going to be an interesting week. I always feel like week 1 is the longest week because
it is
honestly
good ways and bad.
Yeah, it's like it's just been such a long first week, and although it ended kind of not in the best way because no one wanted Keesha to go home, but she basically put it upon herself. So I'm very interested to see what happens this week because especially with this new safety suite twist, anything can happen.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that we have this monstrosity right here, all these alliances that have been formed. If anyone can follow this, there's a lot of interesting connections here, and this one right here I'm not happy about. This Cody, Memphis, Tyler one. That one I'm not, and I don't like the fact that they're in power again because that's just not as exciting to me. But yeah, other than that, guys, I think we're pretty much done here. I guess we'll just go around, say where everyone can follow you, things like that.
You can follow me at Ian Dembling on Twitter and Instagram and every social media. But I mean, yeah. You don't have to go to all of them.
You can follow me on at Marcelo Goose96 on Twitter.
Nice.
I don't know my Instagram handle, so just follow me on Twitter. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, DM me. I tweet about Big Brother. I tweet about life and iconicness.
Period.
Period. I mean, I mostly tweet about Sequester, a little bit of Big Brother. But it's Brian Chase 13, Instagram and Twitter. Follow me.
Yeah. And then Jen's is right there.
Yeah, that's my Twitter handle, and my Instagram is just Jennifer_Rudolph.
Yes.
Marcelo, you're Guzman_Marcelo. I just looked you up on Instagram.
Thank you. That's at Guzman_Marcelo. I knew it was
Just
that.
looking out for
Marcelo
you.
doesn't even know his own handle.
Ian's the real
Follow.
one.
I'm just
Follow
here,
that.
helping out,
Yes. And of
My
course,
real
guys,
final too.
you can follow me at KevinFalk7 on Twitter. I basically just talk about Sequester and Big Brother now and things like that. I talk about, movies as well, but not nearly as much as I used to because Sequester has pretty much taken over my life, which we highly recommend getting into, like I said at the top. If y'all haven't, it's great. It's a great way of meeting amazing people like you on our screen right now and all that kind of stuff. All the love for everyone over here. But other than that, guys, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what you guys thought of this week. We'd love your thoughts on it, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Kevin.